One more time, thank you for joining us. Please welcome to the stage, Justin Lutz, the crowned crust prince of indie horror.
Rumplemans. Thanks, guys. This is the middle of my debut novella, Gemini Rising. The road to Pine Bluff weaves and climbs, threading a thin path through the foothills. Sorry, I can't see a goddamn. Really hard. Let's start over.
Too late, next.
Yep, I'm good. Let's start over. This is from my novella, Gemini Rising. The road to Pine Bluff weaves and climbs, threading a thin path through the foothills. By the time I'm carving up the mountain, the sun is breaking atop it like a fiery egg yolk. I pass trailers and small shacks perched on outcroppings and plateaus. I see chain link fences, decades old, that seem to guard nothing but overgrown grass and defeated automobiles. Their hunking frames, rusted and devoid of their wheels, upholstery dry rotted, windows long broken. I think of something I said to myself when Tori and I were driving the Werner's party in the foothills. The weirdos have the mountain. That party seems ages ago, years passing in hours in Terrence Buckwalter's living room. He'd been stern but pleading, desperate in a way that marked him a man nearing his end, or a man out of chances, a way that marked him a man nearing his end, a man out of chances. It looks like the phone booth out on Pine Bluff past the Lover's Lane, Gordon had said. It overlooks the whole town. While I myself have never brought anyone to Lover's Lane, I can in fact see the whole town as the switchbacks break and I ascend into open sky. It isn't dark enough for lights to twinkle against the shadows, and the maze of streets still has tiny cars zipping hither and yon, oblivious to my mountaintop vantage point, oblivious to their being observed. I follow the road for another mile or so, driving slow and playing back Buckwalter's directions in my head as I do so. It's windy at this elevation, and my car kicks up a plume of dust that dances in the rear view before being swept away on the breeze. I pass no other motorists on the road. The dust clears ahead of me, and there, perched like a beacon on the side of the road, is the phone booth. The glinting silver and dust mottled blues of the structure weren't revealed in the grainy black and white of the tape. Here, they're the only color for a mile at least, surrounded only by hardpan and scrub brush of neutral beige. I ease on the brakes and bring the car to a stop 100 feet from the booth. My hand twists off the ignition and pulls the key in pure muscle memory. The dust settles, and my eyes never leave the booth. My head swims and my chest tightens, the feelings as if seeing a partner after a long summer apart. Something I can't explain gripped my guts when I first saw the tape, and sitting in my car staring at the real thing is akin to a revelation. I step from the car and close the door, the noise like a clanging bell in the clear mountain air. I take a tentative step, exhilaration and terror sharing equal space in my head. The tape has been playing on a mental loop since my first viewing comes into focus, and I can see the lights. Despite the late afternoon sun, I can see the lights dance and descend. I can see the lights fill the booth with light. I think about entering the booth, making contact with the booth, and decide instead to first set up the video camera, just in case. In case of what? I share the question, I shake the question, and return to the car for the camera. Buckwalter insisted I video the experience, whatever experience it may be. What am I expecting to see? He said himself that the phenomenon, when captured, is sporadic, and that there's no guarantee I'll witness anything. There's that word again, witness. Buckwalter said I'm a witness, that my mother was a witness, but what could that mean other than a little more susceptible to outside influence? The lights could have a rational explanation. They could be reflected headlights, spotlights from the airport, or a theater being caught in the metal of the booth. I stop 10 feet from the booth, holding the bulky camera case. No. I can rationalize however I want, but I saw the tape, saw the belief in Buckwalter's eyes. I saw the way that the light seemed trapped in the booth, didn't spread to the surrounding ground or seep out to bleed into the air. I don't know what I'm doing, but I plunge forward anyway. I set up the camera where I estimate it was in my video. The tripod and camera don't go up as easily as I envisioned, and by the time the Enterprise is set up, my back is sticky from sweat and my feet are coated in dust. All the while, I steal glances at the booth in the corner of my eyes. It doesn't move. Of course it doesn't. It stands stagnant against the horizon, a blue and silver sentinel keeping watch on the suburban sprawl below. I check the case for the extra batteries, click one home in the recorder's chamber. Battery, check. Tape, check. The sun is completing its western migration now, the last bit of light gleaming golden off the surface of the phone booth. My finger rests on the record button that depresses it. There's a 3-hour tape in there, and many more in a case at the base of the tripod. My documentation in process, I take my first steps toward the booth. My feet are twin lead blocks that shuffle across the dusty landscape, dragging me closer to the object of my fascination. I cross the road, not much more than a badly paved path, and close the distance between myself and the booth. I reach out and recoil my hand, expecting what? A shock? An out-of-body experience? To be hurtled skyward, to become part of the lights? What do I even think they mean on any grand scale? Is the booth even an important part of this entire batshit exercise? I reach out again, and this time, my fingers connect and push into the center of the door. It buckles, an accordion folds inward, and I'm standing at the open maw of the booth, everything and nothing waiting in tandem on the other side of the threshold. The last of the sunlight seeps from the sky, and I enter the booth and shut the door. A sense of claustrophobia settles over me, and at once I feel trapped. My fingers are wrestling with the seam of the door, willing it to open, when the phone rings a throaty warble from the opposite wall. I look around, spinning completely, staring wildly out of the glass. I'm still alone on the top of this mountain, closed in a phone booth on Pine Bluff in the new darkness, and the phone is ringing. I let it prattle, staring dumbly at the black plastic receiver, asking myself impossible questions about why the phone company would pay to operate such an obsolete booth. On what might be the 50th ring, I put the bell out of its misery and pick up the receiver. A voice is already talking, a continuous string of sentences that play on a loop in a monotone voice that I cannot discern as male or female. Shine, but not for you. Those who are found are still lost. The truth is rarely the most important thing. The lights, Gemini, they shine, but not for you. Those who are found are still lost. The truth is rarely the most important thing. The lights, Gemini, they shine, but not for you. Those who are found are still lost. Who are you? What the hell is this? I shout please into the receiver in the enveloping dark, and I don't see the lights until they're dancing around the glass of the booth. I'm transfixed instantly. My fingers go slack and the receiver drops, swinging on its cord and still calmly reciting its cryptic message. I spin in the booth, trying to keep up with the churn of the orbs. They swim around me in wide, loping arcs, and I hope that the videotape is still running in the recorder. One orb stops and floats at eye level just outside the glass. I think for a second that it has a mocking air before dismissing the notion as ludicrous. This stationary orb proves that I'm not insane, that I'm not losing my mind, that the lights are not mere headlight reflections of spotlights. They're autonomous and independent, an outside force of unknown origin. I almost pump my fist into the air, thinking of the first-hand account I can write and submit to the paper, thinking about the article and the acclaim that will follow. I can interview Buckwalter, rely on his years of research, and the videotape of me in the booth surrounded by dancing lights will corroborate my prose. To be the first journalist to provide proof of the supernatural, of the otherworldly, the possibilities fill my head, and I so overcome with joy and potential that I don't flinch when the orbs fall in line behind the stationary one, and they rocket straight into the booth. Everything goes white. Woo! I'm no longer in the phone booth. I stand in a void of light with no visible termination point. It's not a blinding white, but rather a soft light that glows warmly. The first word that comes to mind is sterile. The only thing to dispel the idea that I'm floating is the steady pressure on the bottom of my feet associated with standing. I try to step, but my feet are rooted. I try to raise my hands, but they are kept at my sides. I'm not in pain, nor do I strain when I attempt to move. I am simply stationary. After a length of time, that no concept of the white space in front of me begins to ripple. The air shimmers and shakes on a hot day with heat coming off the road. Though the shimmer protrudes a finger, then an entire hand, wiggling in the space as if testing the temperature of water in a bathtub. The arm that follows is shrouded in a large white sleeve, and when the rest of the figure steps from the shimmer, I can see that it is the sleeve of a voluminous cloak that obscures the shape and size of the body beneath. The face, I know. It's Tori. She steps fully from the shimmer and it dissipates with no more fanfare than when it arrived. My threshold for surprise and wonder has been shattered, and though my mouth gapes at her sudden appearance, my mind has no trouble wrapping itself around the new development. The universe is vast and seems to have no end. Tori looks at me and smiles but does not speak. I open my mouth to ask her a question, one of 1,000 questions hurling through my brain, but she shakes her head. I think, then prepare to ask a different question, and she once again shakes her head, this time bringing her index finger to her lips. Unsure of what to do and unable to move, I look at her in silence. When the silence breaks, her mouth does not move. Instead, a thought becomes present in my head, put there by her, without speaking. Watch. See. Tori spreads her arms wide in a welcoming gesture, the smile never leaving her lips. She spins in a full circle, gesturing to the void of light. Her robe flutters as she turns, but reveals nothing underneath. Initially at ease, I am curious and growing increasingly worrisome. She stops her floating rotation and resumes staring at me. I can see now that her smile contains no joy. One of Tori's hands reaches to her neck, and I note with horror that there is a line, a seam there that I didn't notice before. Her right hand peels at the seam on her throat while the left lifts in an arc behind her head, grabbing the seam above her right collarbone. Both hands pull at once and the skin of her face goes slack, the grotesque rubber of a Halloween mask. The skin pulls up from the neck and stretches as she pulls it over her other features. Underneath, where I expect to see blood, tendons, tissue, is instead taut skin. She peels off the Tory face and throws it aside. It sinks into the void, growing smaller until it disappears. I look up into the face of Gordon Roberts. He wears the same smile Tori did. When I open my mouth to speak, he too shakes his head. My mind thumps and grinds, open to new experiences, but hard-pressed to apply rationality to what I've just seen. He wastes no time, forcing his message into my head the same as the Tory thing did. He taps his ear. Don't listen. Here. The Gordon thing reaches to his neck with one hand and peels his own face off, now much faster and less delicate than the Tory thing, and underneath Gordon is Terrence Buckwalter. I'm becoming increasingly comfortable with the situation, this Christmas Carol bouquet of grotesqueries sent to impart some sort of message. Buckwalter, rather than sending a message into my head, spreads his sleeved arms wide, palms upturned, and leans back his head. The eyes of the Buckwalter thing roll back, the whites matching the tone of the room. He stands like this for agonizing moments, and just as I open my mouth to ask one of my million questions about just what the fuck is going on, the message from the phone booth starts again, playing directly into my head in the same monotone, ambiguous voice as before. The lights, Gemini, they shine, but not for you. Those who are found are still lost. The truth is really the most important thing. My own eyes begin to roll back, and I long to raise my arms, to grip my temples, to make the agonizing parade of dulcet tones stop, stop, just goddamn stop. It doesn't stop, and the Buckwalter thing leans its head forward, the gruesome, humorless smile never leaving its lips. When he reaches to his own seam and begins to peel his own face off, there is no flesh underneath, but instead creeping, blinding light. It seeps from the fissure in his skin at first, shining in brilliant rays against the now dull backdrop. The more skin he peels back, the more light comes through, filling the space until now assumed was infinite. The message grows in volume until it's thundering in my head, pulsing my temples, and my eyes throb from the brightness emanating from the Buckwalter thing's neck. I try to turn away, but I'm frozen in place. My head grows foggy, dizzy, and I feel as if I might pass out. Finally, mercifully, the faces peel completely from his shoulders. The voice in my head reaches a fever pitch, and I surrender to the void. My leg buzzes, and I attempt to wiggle my toes in my shoe. One toe at a time, then a foot, then a leg. I try to stretch out and find that I can't. I'm folded in a fetal position, and any extension of my legs meets opposition. I open my eyes, and my throbbing head is met with darkness and the gleam of metal. The phone booth. The buzzing of my leg continues, and my awakening senses determine it's my phone. I pull it from my pocket. Tori. Is this the real Tori? The Tori with multiple faces I saw in my dream? Was it a dream? The entire thing felt dreamlike but intensely real, more like a waking vision than a sleeping dream. I thumb the green icon and accept the call. Chad, what the hell? Tori, what? What do you mean, what? I've been trying to reach you for hours. When you didn't show at the restaurant, I thought at first you were running late, but I went by the house and you weren't there, and I got weird and worried and weird and worried, and I didn't know what to think. The date, the restaurant, the text confirming our plans. Damn it. I'm fine, Tori. Yeah, well, fuck, you're fine. Where are you? I look around, like seeing my surroundings for the first time. I'm on top of a mountain. What? I took a drive to clear my head, you know, all the shit with the latest story, and I've just been feeling lost, I guess. You could talk to me about it, you know? Instead of disappearing without a fucking trace, I was really worried, Chad. I didn't know what happened to you. You always answer your phone when I call. I'm sorry, let me make it up to you? She sighs and I worry she won't give me the chance. Same time tomorrow? Don't fuck it up this time, please. I know you're under a lot of stress and work is hard and everything, but I need you to want to make time for me, Chad, okay? I smile, but the vision haunts the back of my thoughts. Okay, I can do that. Chad? Yeah? I mean it, don't fuck it up this time. The line goes dead, and I stand, the closed booth filling me with instant claustrophobia. I fold the accordion door and step out. There's nothing that suggests that anything happened other than me falling asleep in an old phone booth on top of a mountain. I walk away, checking over my shoulder for anything out of place. At first, I don't register them. Won't think about them until it's too late, but next to my footsteps are a second set of footsteps leaving the phone booth. I glance up at the booth itself. The cord of the phone is cut.